Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Live from Paris, world news and analysis from France 24. I'm Mark Owen. These are the main world news headlines. Yemen's civil war takes a deadly turn. Another front, another age-old grudge becomes conflict. Southern rebels retake Aden, and the role of the UAE is under international scrutiny. Analysis to come. The leader of the FARC guerrillas says he's taking up arms again. Colombia's president says he'll send a special unit to hunt down Ivan Marquez and his comrades, who are taking up the war after 3 years of a peace deal. Giuseppe Conte is recalled as Prime Minister to lead a five-star Democrats coalition. The far right, Matteo Salvini, the man behind the hostility to the migrants, seems to be, for now, out in the cold. Thank you very much for being with us. South Yemen separatists claim they've taken back the port city of Aden. This is just 24 hours after the news that the government forces had won it back. The role of the United Arab Emirates is coming under increasing scrutiny.
Southern separatist forces rolled down Aden's main road the night after the internationally recognised government said it had forced them out. NGO Doctors Without Borders says it's taken in more than 40 wounded and 10 dead during heavy fighting.
It's total chaos here. There was fighting in the city all day yesterday. Things appear to have calmed down a bit this morning, but we expect the hostilities to resume at any point.
For weeks, there's been infighting between forces loyal to the government and southern separatists backed by the United Arab Emirates, even though they're all supposed to be an alliance led by Saudi Arabia, fighting together against the Houthis. The Houthis control the capital, Sana'a, in the north and are aligned with Iran, while the rest of the country is mainly divided between government forces, southern separatists and jihadist groups. The separatists want to restore the South Yemen Republic, which merged with the north in 1990. For several years, they've occasionally clashed with government forces, but this month, major new hostilities erupted. Saudi Arabia has called for a summit to end the standoff, but the Yemeni government says it won't come to the table until the separatists hand over places they seized earlier in the month.
Let's get the analysis. Elizabeth Kendall is a senior research fellow in Arabic and Islamic Studies at Pembroke College, Oxford. Thank you very much for being with us. This is in many ways then a new front in the war, but in many ways as well an old argument.
Yes, that's right, Mark. It's a new front opening up now in this current war, but as your report laid out, it has old roots and they go back decades. Yemen as a united country is an awkward concept. It only united in 1990 and already in 1994, just 4 years later, the North and the South were embroiled in a civil war. So unless the grievances of the South, that's political marginalisation, economic marginalisation, a feeling that their resources are being unfairly distributed in the North and not back towards them, unless all of that's addressed, then this will never be solved. And at the moment, the international peace efforts are not bringing in the South. So it's not a great surprise to see the Southern Transitional Council taking matters into its own hands.
And what role are the Emirates playing in this conflict, and why?
The Emirates entered the conflict with Saudi Arabia in March 2015 in order to push back the perceived influence of Iran, which was held to be backing the Houthi rebels in the north. But very quickly, it changed its focus to the south of Yemen, where the Houthis had already been expelled. So that led to suspicions about what the UAE might be doing in the south. Now, it argues that getting control of the south was necessary for security reasons because the jihad groups that you mentioned are mainly centered in Yemen's south. But by backing a political structure like the Southern Transitional Council and by alongside that recruiting thousands of soldiers in the south, it does look like it's more of a political agenda. And that would fit quite well also with its political agenda and security agenda across the Horn of Africa. It should also be noted that, of course, Yemen's wealth, its oil and its gas and its port revenues are heavily concentrated in the south. So suspicions run high as to what UAE's precise motives are.
Caught in the middle, of course, are civilians. This is a humanitarian disaster. There's no doubt about that. And in many ways, Yemen being torn apart before the world's eyes.
That's right. Yemen is being torn apart, and there's no end in sight. We've spent months now wrangling over a quite limited ceasefire just for the port of Hodeidah. And although that's largely held, it hasn't been rolled out to the rest of Yemen. And meanwhile, people in other areas, particularly in the south, are getting impatient. They want to have a say in Yemen's future too. And the sooner more inclusive peace talks can happen, the better, because right now we're in a situation where about 24 million Yemenis are in need of some kind of humanitarian assistance. And the UN is having to close down programs owing to a lack of funding. So it does actually look like things are going to get worse before they get better.
Elizabeth Kendall, thank you very much for your analysis. Senior Research Fellow in Arabic and Islamic Studies at Pembroke College at Oxford University. Thank you very much indeed. We'll keep an eye on all developments on the situation in Yemen, right across the country, of course, where the conflict has been raging on. And obviously civilians bearing the brunt of every twist and turn, gruesome as it seems, along the way. Next, Colombia's Conservative President Ivan Duque said this Thursday he will send a special army unit to hunt down ex-FARC leaders who've announced they were taking up arms again. This follows the announcement by a group of FARC leaders that they are going to resume their battle, and they include Ivan Marquez, who was a key player in the peace deal of 2016. In that same year, Colombia's then president, Juan Manuel Santos, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his resolute efforts to bring the country's more than 50-year-long civil war to an end, a war that cost the lives of at least 222,000 Colombians and displaced close to 6 million people. Well, let's hear from the FARC leader, Ivan Marquez.
When we signed the Havana Agreement, we did it with the conviction that it was possible to change the lives of the humble and the dispossessed. But the state has not fulfilled even the most important of its obligations to protect the lives of its citizens, and in particular to prevent their murder for political reasons. Colombia does not accept threats of any kind, much less from drug traffickers. We Colombians should make clear that we are not on the verge of a new guerrilla war against the criminal threats of a drug gang that takes shelter and support from the dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro.
Ivan Marquez of the FARC, Ivan Duque, the president of Colombia. Let's go to Bogota. Our correspondent Simone Bruno is awaiting us there for his analysis. Simone, good evening to you. Tell us more about why these former FARC guerrilla leaders are taking up arms again.
Yeah, well, what they said is partially true. They said that the government didn't fulfill the peace agreement, which is true. There are still thousands of former guerrilleros that are waiting in these special zones to know what their future is going to be. They are waiting for an opportunity to study or maybe to work, and this didn't happen yet. So on the other hand, there is this other huge problem, which is that part or some of the former guerrilleros have been killed, have been assassinated. And this actually is terrible in Colombia per se, but of course it's terrible also because it actually takes us back to the time when the president peace process ended and they formed a political party, and this political party has been exterminated. So of course on this side they are right to say so, but also could be the impression is that there is a big separation in the FARC. Like FARC are divided into two bands. One is the one of Ivan Marquez that we just saw in the video that you show, Mark, and the other part is the people that are right on my back. They are the leaders of the FARC political party, and it seems like this fraction of the FARC is the one that has more liberal ideas, and the other one is the one that has more communist idea. And they had a fight, and this party, the one that is in charge of the political party now, is the one that is leading the peace process. So, if you mix these two things, I mean, the internal division of the former guerrilla group, together with the fact that the government didn't fulfill the agreement, then you have an explosive situation, and this is what happened today.
And Simone, I wonder what the reaction is wider in Colombia among people and politicians there.
Sure. Well, it's depressing because most of the people, a lot of people really fought for this peace process. They were on the street, they were promoting the referendum when there was a referendum asking to the Colombians if they wanted this peace process or not, this peace agreement. And so mostly young people, they had the hope to live in a country without a conflict. So today, basically, it was like a bad waking up for them. Because, of course, we had the dissident group of the FARC spread all around the country, but this time we had like some very important commander. Ivan Marquez was the leader of the negotiation for the FARC with the government of Juan Manuel Santos. And now he was again on TV with the weapons and with uniform, talking again about war. So for the people, it has been pretty stressful, most of the people that supported the peace process. On the political side, Juan Manuel Santos said that the government fulfilled 90% of the agreement. As I said before, this is hard to understand if it's true or not. UN actually had a different opinion about that than the United Nations. And then there is the other reaction coming from the government, that from actual President Ivan Duque, which has never been a great supporter of this peace negotiation, this peace agreement, and is again as well talking about war once again here in Colombia, in a war that seems endless.
We will await your updates on the situation. Simone Bruno, a correspondent there in Bogota, with the latest. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Next, Italy's president has given the recently resigned premier, Giuseppe Conte, a fresh mandate to see if he can cobble together a new government backed by the populist Five-Star Movement and the centre-left Democrats. This is the situation. Giuseppe Conte there, who has been dubbed the quiet man of Italian politics, but more and more he seems to be the key player, and recently identified as one of the most popular people, one of the most respected politicians in Italy right now. His resignation last week in the wake of the collapse of the populist coalition clearly has enhanced his standing, and his immediate return to the same office sets him above the party around in many ways. I suppose the question is, can he remain there unaffected?
Giuseppe Conte, a year and a half ago, was a law professor with no background in party politics. He was propelled to the top after the Five-Star Movement and Matteo Salvini's far-right League Party agreed to form a coalition government in May 2018. Five-Star leader Luigi Di Maio chose him as prime minister in the hopes he could mediate between the two parties. Conte promised to serve as a people's lawyer.
I'm a professor and a lawyer. Over my lifetime, I handled the cases of many people. I am now preparing myself to defend the rights of all Italians in all the seats of power, European and international.
Conte, as prime minister, has been overshadowed in the media by Di Maio and Salvini, leading some to label him a puppet. Yet in recent weeks, he has proven himself to be anything but. Not only has he led Italy's government through a startling about-face, he has also seen a surge in popularity. Recent polls show him to be the second most popular Italian politician after President Sergio Mattarella, while Salvini's support has dropped. In his resignation speech last week, Conte slammed Salvini as a danger to democracy.
Let me say this, the Interior Minister Matteo Salvini has shown that he is following his own interests and those of his party.
That video has since garnered 2.5 million views. The next test will be whether Conte can retain his support at the head of another unlikely coalition, this time with the Five-Star Movement's longtime enemies, the center-left Democratic Party.
Italian politics is all go. Well, that's until you look at British politics, where it seems to be even more chaotic. Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the official opposition in the UK, says that he's going to take all political action possible to stop the suspension of Parliament. Mr Corbyn, as well as other senior political figures from all sides, say this is a plot by Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, to push through a no-deal Brexit. Well, Boris Johnson announced the move set for mid-September that will see Parliament prorogued or suspended for 5 weeks. There have been high-profile resignations over this issue. George Young, Lord Young, leader of the Conservatives in the House of Lords, has resigned the whip, basically refusing to follow the party line. And this woman, leader of the Conservatives in Scotland, has now resigned, Ruth Davidson, citing motherhood as well as the current controversy for her reasons for standing down. We're watching all developments on those stories. Infections of measles in Europe have tripled over the past decade. The World Health Organization is urging countries to step up inoculation of children. Doctors are condemning fake news online that's being blamed for parents refusing jabs for their kids.
Over 364,000 cases have been reported to WHO from the regions. That number, which is only 4 cases up through August, is the highest number of measles cases reported globally in any year since 2006, and we have not completed the year yet.
The first time ever since the verification process began in 2012, 4 countries, Albania, Czech Republic, Greece, and the United Kingdom, lost their measles elimination status.
The measles scare across the world. At the root of it, it seems to be fake news, as the doctors are saying, which has urged parents or pushed parents to turn away from vaccinating their kids. We'll bring you more as it develops.